Cool. So today the idea was that we would talk about the 2024 priorities in the context of what has been done in 2023, and then try and connect those dots. And the hope is to get your feedback uh, and comments and questions on this, and then over the next 2 to 3 week period, try and come up with an overall high level plan of both what are the priorities, and then potentially maybe in quarter by quarter what would be the big ticket items that would come through. So this wiki page summarizes, and for anyone who wants to give a post a question or provide a comment, if you're logged in into Bahmni wiki or Atlassian, you can always select any particular item and then you can click on this comment, and then an inline comment would get recorded against that particular point, and then people can have a discussion, very similar to how you do it in Google Docs. So this is one option when you want to clarify or post your comment on a specific line or initiative, and then at the bottom you can still go ahead and the usual page style comment, drop your comment, or and we can have a discussion here too. So whatever makes sense in the context of your question or input, please choose any of these two. The Bahmni Slack is also, of course, the place to do this. I've just switched off Slack to avoid too many pop-ups and notifications, but the community channel is a good channel to do that, as an example, where you can post your questions, or you can also post your questions on the roadmap channel, and we can discuss them here too. All right. So coming back to this particular wiki page, I think it's important to re-summarize some of the original themes that have been, high priority areas and focus areas for the overall group. So one of the big ones was to provide a lightweight version of Bahmni for clinics. And towards that initiative was where we have seen quite a lot of, improvements and releases that have happened. For instance, the Bahmni Lite release and the Dockerization of Bahmni to make it easy and lightweight for people to be able to run. Also, from an India readiness perspective, one of the focus was India readiness for multiple reasons. There has been a very big push on digitalization by the government of India and the National Health Authority of India over the last 3 to 4 years. And there is a standard called the ABDM, Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission, which is a blueprint architecture for digital health in India. And that has been, very highly pushed as well as, evangelized across India by the government. And it was important that at low cost for a country like India to have open source software as an option that people could adopt. And Bahmni became ABDM certified last year. So what we did is we wanted to make sure that for the Indian audience also, they could download Bahmni and have things out of the box with an ABDM package and certain configuration that, like for instance, the drug list, the forms, some of the address hierarchy, and many other areas, they kind of come out of the box just to make things, faster to start. So that's the India readiness approach, and it has actually helped in igniting quite a lot of interest in Bahmni. We're seeing a lot of members join our Slack channels over the last 6 months who have questions either around ABDM or on Bahmni or across the state, and I think you have also, if you are part of India, you would have seen some of these activity. But this has also helped globally in helping people, get a more shelf-ready version of Bahmni. Security and safety has been something that anyways has been a priority for us, but the focus increased quite a lot because we have to do platform upgrades and other fixes to make this happen. So a lot of progress was made on this. Trivy scanners were introduced in Bahmni for this particular purpose to ensure that we could monitor the build, get a count of critical high, low, medium issues, and then start keep prioritizing them. Almost 2 months of effort by two pairs was added in fixing, and we also got certified twice last year for ABDM, but security certification is a mandatory step for ABDM. So two different times for two different sets of deployments. Bahmni was also given the green green light from a security certification perspective. The other area of focus was increasing of doctor adoption. In general, as we know, right, it's hard to get clinicians to adopt an EMR, mostly because in the target environments, the patient load is very high. And using a computer in general slows down clinicians in terms of how much they can enter or their experience, with the patient. So there was quite a lot of feedback in general on what can be done around this, and there were initiatives taken to ensure multiple things. So for instance, make Bhamni responsive for mobile, especially the clinical screens, so that people could access and use Bhamni more easily in the clinical mode. And that was something that that has been well acknowledged, but it is still not sufficiently good enough. There is still some friction in doing that, and that's why there is a demand for a mobile app for clinicians to do. We also did some speech to text type of experiments to see whether that kind of an interaction could work. And there are other links. I wouldn't spend more time going on this, but there has been some progress, but we feel a lot more can be done in this space. So that's another one. Make Bhamni cloud friendly. Again, because of clinic and a target audience as clinic in small facilities, and also to help implementers adopt Bhamni on the cloud and provide it as a SaaS service. Making Bhamni cloud friendly is going to be imperative, and that's why we focused on this along with Dockerization, AWS based Helm charts, so that you can run it on Kubernetes actually. And that was one of the focus areas. And there too, the idea was to not link it in specific to AWS, so not use or make Bhamni depend on an AWS service, but kind of keep it agnostic so that you can easily run it on other clouds too. So we are seeing some of our clients running Bhamni on GCP. And there may be more work that we need to do on this, but it is still good enough right now as a first cut for running it on the cloud. And the last goal was to keep software components up to date. So along with these goals, some of the other things that happen automatically based on the projects that are going on, right? So a lot of IPD related development has happened thanks to the work that is happening through Cure International. And because of that, and we have also started ensuring that all the new development happens in React and micro front end. So a lot of the new screens that you will see that have come because of IPD, they are actually very similar to the OpenMRS3 look and feel in terms of the carbon design system, and it coexists with Angular in certain scenarios. So that's a pretty exciting development, I would say. And the idea is that in this year, we are hoping that we'll be able to move over a lot of the older Angular components to the same React micro front end stack. One more project that happened last year. It wasn't originally on our roadmap, but it came in because SNOMED International reached out to Bahmni Coalition and wanted to do a partnership where you would have Bahmni speaking to a SNOMED terminology server over Fire, so that SNOMED International could showcase on an open source, product what would best practices look like for EHRs to integrate with SNOMED CT and make use of SNOMED CT. So quite a few features were developed that showed interoperability with SNOMED CT and SNOMED terminology server, including clinical decision support system that uses SNOMED hierarchies to give you notifications for drug-drug interaction scenarios or drug diagnosis interaction scenarios, and quite a lot of other good reporting and export features. You can have a look at all of this on the wiki page. There are videos, and a demo server is also available to play with this. Besides that, the other initiative that happened was the government of Karnataka pilot deployment of Bahmni, along with integration with an open source product called Avni, which is basically a community health worker app that works offline, and you can use this app to go home to home, fill certain forms, and then later push the form data to Bahmni. So that way, we've called this whole package Bahmni Outreach, which supersedes now the old Bahmni Connect. So with Bahmni Outreach, the expectation is that people can, community health workers can actually go to a certain catchment area, download the data of their particular catchment patients, visit, even do registrations of new patients in their catchment area, and then bidirectionally be able to sync the data that is captured from this mobile app onto Bahmni. There is some more development slash productization that would be needed to these solutions, but the first cut is available for people to try it out, and then where there are certain places where people would likely need to make certain changes, so we can guide on that. But this is a good move for offline ready work, and it is live in few locations in Karnataka already. And Avni by itself is also a pretty mature app. It's been around for almost 5 years, and it's been used in over 45 different NGOs across India. So it's already, as an offline app, it is already proven and being used in health and non-health use cases. The other very highly requested feature was the Udo upgrade, and this was required actually for us to do a Bahmni standard release this year. So that is in progress. A significant chunk is done. Demo server is up for people to try it out. There are some other good to have features that we are trying to add to this, like initialization module for master data that will help make the setups easier. And there is also a prototype Flutter app for clinician facing as a clinician facing app that has been built. You can see the screenshots, and there is a video also of it. So this was also done under the Code for GovTech program that we had participated in. A student along with Anshuman actually worked on this app. So this is a good app in the sense that it has been well received by whoever has tried it out, to say this is really good. It works on the mobile. This is what we would like to do, but it's not yet production ready. We have to make some design improvements and add a few more features. But it at least kind of validates the fact that this kind of a tech stack and experience would be very good for clinicians and doctors and nurses on the move in a facility for both IPD or OPD settings. And then overall, there was a huge number of tickets fixed in this year. Over 700 plus tickets were actually closed in Jira in 2023. So a lot of work definitely has gone into Bahmni. We also conducted multiple trainings this year, including Docker training, ABDM training, and an upgrade training to help facilities that want to migrate over to the latest Bahmni stack, which runs on Docker and the latest OpenMRS platform. These trainings are well received, and we are also seeing a lot of questions on the community as people are preparing for their upgrades. Three locations, three hospitals have already finished with their migration, and they are live on the latest stack. They moved over from the 0.92 or even earlier version. So that's promising, and we've incorporated that feedback. So at a high level, quite a lot of stuff happened across these themes, and our hope is, the themes don't really instantly get dropped just because the new year has started. But I think it is important to still identify a list of themes or a list of features that would make sense for the upcoming year. So some of the items that we have listed here are currently at the higher priority recommendations. And then there are other items. I'll just quickly go through this list, and then we can open the floor up for questions, comments, so on. So one of the very high important, item that we feel we've got to work on is the Bahmni standard v1.0 release, right? Which is basically the hospital facing release containing of all the components that used to go with legacy Bahmni. So this would mean Udo, LSDCM, 4G, and so on. So the standard v1.0 has not yet been released, even though it's available as a development version, but we still need to, we want to make sure Udo upgrade happens, and we do any critical security fixes, performance testing, validate that it works fine in other languages besides English, and then do proper release. So this would definitely be an important one because a lot of folks are already begun preparing for the migration, and having a certified release would just make people comfortable before they make the switch. So this is one big one that we feel we have to do in soon. And then there is the whole IPD release. Actually, because Cure International already has moved ahead, and they have built a lot of very good features for IPD, like discharge summary, drug chart, nursing schedule, nursing dashboard, and so on. You can see screenshots of them here already. We want this to be folded into the product and made generally available along with configuration and so on pre-done, so that people also can start picking up which one of these features they would want to evangelize or use. So this makes sense in a way for us to do to, because there is this would also help us move over our older components to the React side of the equation. The other items are better UX for clinicians, which I spoke about earlier. We feel like we need a mobile app for clinicians to be able to, you know, use Bahmni on the go, see data, be more closer to the app and be more effective. And the other is overall helping the community to upgrade from older versions to the latest versions of Bahmni, to ensure that they are secure as well as getting the benefits of the latest work that has happened over the last 1.5 years. The other item is more experimental. There is a big move towards Gen AI, LLMs, and so on. And also, there seems to be interest in funders to see if there are good use cases around this. We did a few experiments last year, but we feel like some more research into this area is important to see if we can find impactful use cases for Gen AI. And then in general, ensuring interoperability through wider FHIR support. A lot of the development that has happened in this past 1 year, including the IPD and so on, has tried to ensure that newer FHIR endpoints and FHIR based structures and schema are used. All the ABDM work also is FHIR compliant, which exposes a lot of useful FHIR endpoints for interoperability. And we want to make this happen opportunistically as we are doing development, ensure that there are more FHIR endpoints and FHIR aligned APIs and resources that are exposed through Bahmni. The last is overall upgrades and security fixes. They don't go away anywhere. We've got to continuously keep doing these to ensure stability, performance, and security. All right. So yeah, that was a whirlwind tour from my side on what we are thinking right now in terms of the priorities and in terms of what are some of the opportunities that are already in place. I'll open the floor up for questions, comments, suggestions.
Yeah, by the way, this is by no way definitive, right? Like, we are still trying to figure it out. So it's not that it is all decided as, like, that's why it is marked as tentative.
No, I agree absolutely. Actually, um, I agree on that. So I guess we'll maybe wait for a few seconds to see if someone has any questions in general, not necessarily related to what I said, but overall. Or alternatively, I can ask specific questions.
Hi, Gurpreet. Thanks for the update.
Hi, Sandeep.
I guess the few things that we really or rather exciting to take it up is the outreach and the Voodoo upgrade. We already have two customer lined up for the outreach, and my team is probably working with the developers to get that moving. We still am not able to have our local setup, but we working out to do that. And Udo 16, we already have got the image. We are working out to see what are the, at least for the common workflows, if we are able to face issues. Otherwise, we can, the newer implementation we would take up with the Udo 16, because Udo 10 is very outdated, and in making any changes or finding the skills to work on that was very challenging.
Right, right. No, agree. Actually, that it was strong to do moving to Udo 16, and we are glad that we were able to get started on it. And at a high level, at least all the sync scenarios are there. They are working. For example, patient registration and orders and so on. But I think we can make it much better. We wanted to reduce the friction, reduce the surprises, reduce the complexity that comes with master data setup. So uh, we are also working, more closely on the Voodoo parts to make it easier out of the box. And we are also working with the customer to make sure that the Voodoo upgrade actually works in production. So that way, any learnings while rolling out in production and performing the upgrade will also fold into the implementation, and it will just make us feel more confident that after that the Voodoo upgrade is like reliable. So yeah, any help and any testing feedback on that front, Sandeep, will be definitely helpful.
Sure. So you mean we already tried migrating 10 to 16 on the data migration part?
Yeah, so we have partially done it in a controlled environment for one of the clients. We have now next 2 weeks is dedicated to doing it again in their QA world, in their environment. So based on those learnings, we are going to play some more stories. So if there are places where things don't work, like that will become the stories or documentation, depending on what happens. And then by the time the actual we are ready, like our ready release will be along with the customer's upgrade to make sure that things actually work in real world and it's not just a theoretical upgrade from our side. But yeah, I think every Odoo release, every adopter, if they've done custom modifications, those will be some tricky scenarios. But I guess we'll have to just discover them as they come.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, maybe your like experience would help us to kind of and get convert our existing customer base from 10 to 16, and also Bahmni upgrade. Yeah,
Right,
thanks.
right, great.
Hi, this is Ravi here.
Hi, Ravi.
Just sharing thought on that. We talked about Bahmani adoption and the challenges a clinician faces, for example, in OPD, right? So I
Right.
think the feature like speech to text or scribble pad, something like that, that should also be considered to improve the adoption.
Ravi, I feel it Ravi only, na, right? Just
Yeah, yeah, yes.
double checking. Yeah, hi.
Thanks.
Yeah, I know you are right. Actually, so speech to text, actually, we do feel like this would be very useful because we tried it last year. The idea was that it's a two-stage process, right? Like you do a speech to text conversion, and after that, you do NLP in a way to automatically make meaning out of the text. And then you can say, okay, an order has been prescribed, a medicine, drug has been prescribed, notes have been given. So the idea is to take it end to end. And our first prototype was it had like it was able to do the speech to text conversion, but the accuracy for clinical terms was poor with the open source version. And we also discovered that the cost of running it in real time was prohibitive for most of our target audience, because of the infrastructure required to do the real time conversion. So it was a good prototype running on Vakyansh, but it was expensive and it was clinically not accurate enough for real world use. We also explored a proprietary product called Simbo AI, which was much better actually, from India only, built for Indian English and other dialects, and it targeted EMR products, and it provides an API and does the speech to text to meaning extraction in one shot. We didn't integrate it with Bahmni, but we saw demos and we spoke to the team and it looked really promising. And also, India, they had like this offer for 1 year free for X number of doctors in the hospital and so on. So it looked very promising, but being a proprietary solution, we were a bit hesitant to go ahead and integrate with it. But yeah, definitely this is something that is on high on our radar as a prototype to try out if it can be cost effectively done, so that it works for the target audience.
Sure.
Angshu, anything you want to add to this area? Akhil, Angshu?
Not really. I think we've covered all. I mean, the reasons are the same, right? Like, with the Vakansh, especially for Indian context, and I think with a little bit of work, probably with other global context as well, just getting the textual part is probably the easier bit,
Right,
right? Making sense out of it and is a totally different ball game, right? And you
right.
could, I mean, in terms of the utility, okay, is happening right on the app. You could say, hey, I could just open a Google Doc, say speech to text over there, and do the same also, right? Uh,
Right.
but the thing is, I think, like, the other part is this, how do you make sense out of it? And that definitely requires much more work, right? So I think, like,
Right.
we'll have to be, and I do not know whether we can intentionally keep on doing this. Um, my impression would be that unless somebody really funds it, we'll probably be opportunistic about it.
Agree.
Yeah, thanks.
So, yeah. So Deepak also asked this question around, what is a future plan for OpenLS? This item, in a way, it's been in our actually plan for last year also. We were hoping in 2023 that we could migrate over to Senate limbs and package it out of the box. There are other organizations that have already integrated Bahmni or OpenMRS with Bika limbs as Senate limbs, which has microbiology features and many other actually mature features, including lab analyzer integrations out of the box. Um, Yeah, I think it's just a bandwidth issue. I would say, Deepak, we are very keen to consider, Bika limbs or Senate limbs. It's the same product with minor differences, but the conversation has started. But I think it's just a bandwidth and prioritization thing now that is remaining. Any help on this would be good to have. I feel like we will still continue to support OpenLS for sometime meaning it this year and next, because there are a lot of adopters and it works for many small facilities and they don't have any complaints. But just being an older tech stack and not having enough features on these areas, we do think that having an alternative integration available, bridge that allows you to use Senate limbs over a standard Fire based implementation and possibly Loin, I think that would be the right way to go ahead. So it is high on our wish list. That's what I feel. But yeah, Akhil, Angshu.
Yeah, no, definitely. This is high on our wish list, and it's just a matter of time and bandwidth.
I mean,
I
we
mean,
definitely have thoughts and ideas on this, right?
Right.
Uh, in Gurpreet, Akhil, if I'm not wrong, there was a community initiative also integrating with Bika limbs. So we do
Right,
have a
right,
starting point.
right, right. There's
Right.
we do this talk thread actually, which was started about 2 years back, where they did the integration of Bahmni. In fact, if you see, it says 113 links. That itself clicks already tells you it's very popular. Which was HL7 based integration of Bahmni with Senate limbs. It was the reverse integration used to use, I think, email or something. So there are scope for doing it a bit better. But it was they use Mirth in a way to do this integration. And in Senate and in Ozone, the Mekong has used Camel to do the integration. So there are certain options. I think we have some opinions on what would be right so that it is interoperable with any lab system, not just Senate for the future. I think it's just a matter of a team picking it up. Deepak, thoughts, questions around this?
An update, even I was thinking of like having a part of community. So definitely, I have gone through the OpenML's talk based on this scenario, and also few implementation using Myth Connect as well. Yes, it was a previous year priority. So I was thinking if 2024 have the same priority, if it is postponed for 2023, that's actually my I was just wondering to know about that. So that's why I raised the question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Deepak.
Again, nothing is like, just reminding that, like, this is why you're doing this, like, discussions. It isn't ruled out at all, right? Actually, like, for anything, if we find potential collaborators, and again, we would be opportunistic, right? This will go high up, right? If you find more collaborators, yeah, great. Like, let's push it up.
Yeah.
I think from the product side, we have done the analysis. We think it is possible. We have like, opened the communications with the, the Senate team also, as Gurpreet mentioned, that more analysis needs to be done. It's a matter of bandwidth and prioritization. And if you'd like to collaborate, you'd like to take on this, would love it. This is, I mean, along with Voodoo, for example, this is next probably on our list to upgrade. So actually, if you see recommendation, it does come on the 7 part, right? Upgrade, like, OpenLS, etc.
I also wanted some opinion from people who are attending today. What is your are you like in agreement with this particular point around it would be great if we have a mobile app for clinicians and nurses and clinical staff basically on the go to be able to do various clinician oriented activities like patient search, dashboard, consultation, appointments, view documents, orders, and so on. Is this something most people believe would be very valuable? Just wanted to hear people's thoughts based on their experience.
So if I go first, Gurpreet, certainly the UI, and especially because many of the places now started using the tablet kind of interface,
Right.
be an OPD or it could be the doctors going, on the rounds to the IPD or nursing staff. I feel like so far we could still have the people using the browser interface now, since the UI is little much or much better than what used to earlier for the smaller size of screens. I would go if we are able to get this UI more touch kind of friendly and then move to an app or I don't know what kind of technology can be used wherein, because we like using the same browser interface, we kind of create an icon on the phone or tablet, and wherein they click, which opens the actually a browser kind of app,
Right,
but
right,
they feel like they're using the
right,
app. Of course, there is no pre-signed in or keeps any history. It just kind of browser interface only, but the UI has to be that touch intuitive, is what I feel is we need to work on more. And especially the screens like and medications and all are been the other, we seen the other computer tools wherein they made nicer interfaces, wherein also the learning part like in medications where we know certain doctor knows if it is pediatrician, if all that commonly used drugs appears on the top of to touch it off and then touch and select and proceed, right? So those kind of things we can think of taking it up. I know it's a big ticket item to go overall, but medication in tab is something I am looking forward to have that UI to be improved in a better way.
right. Yeah, no, in fact, medication tab has been, has gone through design phase 2 times already, where two different groups in different, in the last 3, 4 years have come up with a high level redesign. And we really strongly believe that that is the most important screen in the whole clinical, you know, options to redesign, and will have the biggest impact because that's like the most common used screen where people spend a lot of time searching, clicking, and doing things. So it definitely needs a redesign. I think what you're also saying is that if the current web responsive, screens could be made more mobile friendly for a mobile experience, along with a medication redesign, then we might actually have a pretty good win already uh, before we take the step towards a Flutter app or a separate, bottom up app. Right? Is that what your
Yes,
thoughts are right now? Yeah.
that's
Okay.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, I've captured them. And actually, that was the intention, right? That was the intention because we knew last year when we were doing the Bahmni Light release that we didn't have sufficient bandwidth to rewrite a new app. And it would be a smaller set of effort for someone who's good at CSS to make the app mobile friendly. And that's what we did, right? Krishna and the team at that point in time spent about a month and fixed a lot of the screens which were not responsive to mobile, and that has really helped. But like bridge that intermediate gap. But some of the original design challenges of the medication tab and the number of clicks it needs, and not having the ability to select commonly prescribed drugs or favorited drugs and so on, those definitely are biting us in the number of clicks that are needed to
Yeah.
make things happen. Mobile or no mobile, in
Yeah.
any case, that's a challenge.
Although, I mean, in terms of the usability, probably with the responsive, like, making the web app and all making growth has helped. But there are, as Gurpreet mentioned, serious challenges in terms of like, user interactions. This clinical interface, when it was designed, like, I mean, even the rich client Web 3.0 was just coming in, the expectations were different. And over time, if you look into this, everybody now prefers mobile. It's also a cost-effective one, right? Because everybody has, and it's portable. You go everywhere. Another important part, which is again depends on where you're operating and how the Bahmni is. If you're seeing the more movement towards cloud, right? Depending on how good your internet is, just the latency can kill the experience. And remember this that I don't believe like we'll be ever be able to come to a scenario where hey, we have the same source code, for example, which will serve both mobile as well as like and web. Each has got its own place and usability and specific users. Obviously, with the larger form factor, you can show much more interactive one. Like think about all the clinical decision supports and other stuff that we have brought in on the SNOMED, for example. If you need to think about it on a mobile experience, the design and the user experience itself, needs to be thought totally differently, right? You can't say, okay, I'm going to make it work that way. So yeah, I, I don't know if you have seen from, especially on the smaller clinics, single doctor clinics, or even like say in India, we have the primary health centers where there are few doctors, few nurses, uh, and especially the poor internet connectivity. It's a terrible experience, right? You want to leverage
Yeah.
the cloud infrastructure because like a maintenance is cheaper, right? Deployment is easier, everything. But at the same time, right, you need to think about operationally how they use it, usability aspect.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So the hope is also that with mobile app, we will be able to do certain features which can work offline. So you could potentially save certain patients if you wanted to, so that you can refer to their records offline and so on. Not like a fully offline first app, but have some features that do allow you to work in a scenario where you don't think you will have internet connectivity or it will be poor. But given that it's a local app, not a web-centric app, it it would allow for a better experience or a quicker experience. In fact, the whole thing about high traffic scenarios that we want snappiness in the mobile experience so that doctors can like do certain things fast. And maybe I'm using the word mobile, even if it is tablet, even for tablet, but it's the same hope that you can do many things faster. You can possibly see two patient records, quickly enter the data, and then you can like save it and store it and then later push it. So some of those interactions might be needed to make things faster. The drug list is like loaded, cached. Common drugs are cached. You search for them, they just like show up fast. So those are some, I feel like, optimizations that can significantly improve the experience.
Yeah, and I don't think the we would ever want, for example, uh, and say replicate exactly whatever the features in Bahmni exactly the way are in a mobile version, right? As I said, I think we need to look for, and that's the trend also you will everywhere you will see is this fit for purpose applications will always win over an absolute generic over encompassing app which has got everything. Case in point is like say look at our lab system. Why do you need to make it mobile? We don't need to make it mobile friendly because the users of the lab technicians, they're working in a environment where they have desktops, etc. Right? We would never even think about it.
Uh, yeah, no, that's true.
What do you think? One of the this thing was put forward was leveraging LLM, Chat GPT's AI/ML, right? What are your thoughts around it? Have you seen use cases where people can benefit? Uh, as Gurpreet also said, there might be potentially some minimal this thing opportunities also. So what can you think about? But first of all, are there solid use cases?
So few examples of use cases that we recently discussed, just to sort of bring them up, right? One was, for instance, for those who've used ChatGPT, right, like where you can actually use ChatGPT to like have a conversation. You could have a ChatGPT for analytics, which allows you to basically do things like search for patients which have this diagnostic history and they were in this location, this geographic location. They were due at this age group and so on. So for research purposes, for doctors, or in general for people who are looking at existing data that is stored in their hospital, their facilities, to be able to query the data, to be able to pull up certain cases so that they can refer to them back without having to know SQL or any analytics tool, but be able to like chat with a system and get this data. That felt like a use case that could be quite beneficial to consider as an example. Besides this, there were others like optical character recognition, where you could extract lab results from, mountain of PDF reports or lab reports that are like uploaded in a folder, extract the lab test results, load them into Bahmni automatically against the right patient, or provide some sort of an interface that allows you to quickly say, yes, 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 this looks good, so that there is a manual validation in between before it gets stored into the system. But it removes the grunt work of reading a report, entering the results. So yeah, ideas like these or others that you feel or thoughts would be helpful for us to see if there are some experiments we could conduct.
We had come across, we had discussed with one of the pediatrics consultant, and it seems I have not checked it, but there are ready to available the AI based for the clinical analysis, wherein the you can pass the patient's conditions, and then it would provide the kind of it's a supportive information for doctors to think about it in terms of treatment plan. It could be the diagnosis and other parts. So I haven't seen it in live environment anywhere, but this is what something has been coming across. I'm not sure if these are being developed by the large bigger companies in the pocket, but such thing would be coming live soon is what I see based on the inputs I received.
You would see a fair, even when we go this thing, you'll see a lot of custom, LLMs as such. Basically, it's not custom LLM as such, but over the GPT-4 APIs, or even 3.5, for example, there are additional attributes you can pass so that it is little more contextual, right? So I've seen some of them. And again, limitations in terms of, how many you can do, what will be the cost of it, how interactive we can do. Those are all this thing. But yeah, definitely one of the areas. I don't know if anybody has experience or even seeing a snippet of Google's Med LLM, MedPalm.
I'm not seen.
I do feel like, in future, it will probably be more custom LLM specialized. Right.
This one you're saying, right?
Yeah.
MedPalm?
Yeah. I mean, obviously it's not free, but
Is it more
Yes.
like CDSs?
This is a large, depends on what you leverage it for. CDS is one use case,
Okay.
but this is an large language model specifically for, this thing. And you can think about n number of uh, examples, right? But rather than the generic, like say OpenAI, uh, ChatGPT, this is much more precise, gives much more concrete examples. And honestly, this will be the future, not just in health, but anywhere else, more specialized LLMs.
Yeah, so Akhil actually had brought this up, right? A chat GPT like interface for doctors where you are only typing like you would type on a word pad, right? Where you're just saying, hey, this is what I think, this is what's going on, this is what it is, and then that thing is indirectly looking at that information and then automatically ordering tests. Automatically meaning saying this is what you have said, ordering this is a test you're ordering, this is what it is, and then the doctor reviews the actual summary that is generated based on their text and says yes, this is correct and done. So in a way, it is doing, instead of speech to text, you're basically doing text to the actual conversion more automatically with certain inline suggestions that are coming, so that they are contextual in nature, right? So if, for instance, you're typing, "Hey, has been diagnosed with COVID," then you might get a contextual box at the bottom which says, prescribe these three drugs for COVID. So if the doctor just clicks on it and they get prescribed into that thing. Then the doctor continues to type, some other suggestions come. And if the suggestions are contextual and make sense, the doctor looks at them and approves, and it just keeps going in to make that whole experience more seamless. So that way, there isn't necessarily a UI of the nature where you select things from top down or up. You just keep typing and you keep doing things. Akhil, did I kind of explain what you're saying? Maybe you can
Yes.
add to it.
No, you
More of a
explained it well.
conversational UI.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
textual conversational UI, right, correct. With some interactions that make things faster, because if you get like six drugs, you don't have to say anything, you don't have to type the six drugs, you just see recommendations and you go tick, 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 like here, and they're gone into the suggestion screen. So then this final screen is prepared based on what you've been typing, and both can be stored, your original notes as well as what's there, and then behind the scene it's the same API is being called, so you can see the legacy view and the chat GPT view.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then you
yeah, I
could
like it.
just say, summarize this patient for me, and then the whole of the history of that patient, the dashboard that we already have, that kind of summarizes everything, uh, for that patient. How many visits, when did they appear, for a visit the last time around. So all of that could be done through this conversational UI.
I like it, Akhil. It's nice idea. Because typically what we see in any message, right? If you have time or something, and it gives prompts you to add a calendar invite. Similarly, like if you have the someone enters the blood pressure, and they can have option to add it as vital. Something low, quick addition can be done by just they can type it on a free text and free format and do it. It's like what currently, or what probably traditionally doctor uses the plain paper to just write few keywords, right? They would not even write in
Right,
detail,
right,
and
Yeah,
you
right,
just,
exactly.
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
and just probably enhancing that, asking them to do the same way in a plane, but by clicking it would respective the or tabs get filled up with the
Yeah,
real data. Yeah, no, I think it's
absolutely.
nice idea.
So we're a bit over our original time. Are there any other inputs, questions, thoughts on any item, including the ones we spoke or others? I see there are a few other folks who also joined today who are relatively newer here. Any thoughts on what was said? You feel in agreement? You have certain, concerns? Anything from your experience that you feel we should also think about possibly? So we can keep this conversation going next week also. But meanwhile, now that you all have some context, if you can look at the wiki page, possibly share your comments there, or come on the Slack channel and possibly ask your questions there. I think that would be helpful to us, and we'll also work on summarizing some of the discussion today and seeing if we can identify some themes for the next year, so that helps in identifying then the features to work on. Cool, Anshu, then back to you. I think maybe we can close today's discussion.
Yeah, I know it's taken a little more time, but I hope this was useful. This is obviously just the beginning of the discussion. Please go through the different links and other things that we have provided and our wiki. Feel free absolutely to ping us on any of the usual channels if you want to get into a discussion. We would be specifically and more, if you have something you say no, this is high priority, and if you want to collaborate, as I said, none of these are set in stone, right? And we would be opportunistic. If you have capacity, if you want to collaborate, probably even something that is not figured over here will come up, right? But we hope these are aligned to the themes. And again, the themes are not absolutely finalized at all, nowhere close to that. So yeah, do reach out to your actual users. Right. If somebody wants to come in, share their impressions, thoughts, more than welcome. But do reach out to your implementers, your actual users, and feed that back. What would will help Bahmni as well as in your client basis. Thanks everybody. Thanks for joining in. Till next week. And close the call. Stay healthy, stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you all. Bye bye.
Thank you.